My dear friends, have you ever sat down and suddenly felt your legs grow unbearably heavy, as if weighed down by invisible stones? You take just a few steps and already your heart races, your legs feel weak, and you ask yourself, am I aging too quickly? I've heard this from so many of my patients in their 60s. And I want to tell you this, sometimes the problem isn't simply age, it's the flow of blood through your body. Blood is the river of life. When that river flows strong, every cell is nourished, your steps are steady, and your heart beats with rhythm. But when the flow slows down, when the vessels tighten, you begin to feel numbness, cold feet, even a loss of balance. One question I often ask my patients is, have you noticed your feet feeling colder than the rest of your body? That is a sign of poor circulation. And here, I want to share with you a simple secret. Something that comes not from a pill bottle, but from your own kitchen, spinach. This leafy green, so common and unassuming, carries within it a quiet but powerful gift. It helps open up your blood vessels, improves circulation, and delivers oxygen to every muscle and every cell. I remember a patient of mine, Margaret, 67 years old. She came to me saying her legs always felt numb. Doctor, she said, I only walk around the house, but it feels like I'm walking on ice. I encouraged her to add spinach to her daily meals, not as a supplement, but fresh and real. She started making spinach omelets in the morning, sometimes blending it into smoothies with bananas and apples. After about 2 months, she came back with a smile. My legs feel warmer, I can walk longer without stopping. That wasn't magic, that was simple biology. Spinach is rich in natural nitrates. Once inside your body, nitrates turn into nitric oxide, a compound that gently relaxes your blood vessels, like opening a doorway for blood to flow more freely. More oxygen reaches your muscles, easing heaviness and pain. Medical studies confirm this. Older adults who eat leafy greens like spinach often have better endurance and fewer problems with stiffness and numbness. I know when people hear the word chemical, they get worried. But I want you to imagine it this way. Nitric oxide is like a kind gatekeeper. When it's there, the gates open wide, blood flows, and your body feels light. Without it, the gates close, blood gets stuck, and you feel tired. Have you noticed how a morning that begins with something light and fresh makes your whole body feel better? That's why I often tell patients over 50, start your day with spinach, just a handful in a sandwich, or blended with apple and a little ginger. You don't have to change your whole life in one day. Change begins with a single leaf. Another patient of mine, Harold, 72, a retired Navy man, once said to me, Doctor, I've learned to live with the pain. I thought that's just the price of aging. But after he added spinach faithfully to his meals, a few months later, he called me chuckling. I can take my wife for a walk in the park again, just like when I was 30. That's when I realized spinach doesn't just heal the body. It restores confidence, joy, and dignity. I want you to picture this. Age 60 is not a full stop. It's a new chapter. And in that chapter, you have the power to write something beautiful. Every time you place a handful of spinach on your plate, it's like sending your body a message. I still want to live healthy, live happy, and live free. Have you ever thought that something as small as a leaf could change the current of your bloodstream? Yet it's true. Science has shown it, and my experience with hundreds of patients has proven it. All you need is to begin, today, with one handful of spinach. So if you're listening to me right now, ask yourself, why not give myself a chance? A chance to walk stronger, to let your heart beat peacefully, to live your later years full of vitality. And you know what the best part is? Spinach isn't expensive. It's not a costly drug, not a prescription. It's right there in your local market, maybe even in your own backyard. The only things you need are patience in the belief that your body can still recover. When I look into the eyes of patients who've transformed their lives with simple choices like this, I see a truth. Age is not the enemy. Habits are the enemy and also the ally. If you nourish your life with the right habits, like a handful of spinach each day, your becomes lighter, more hopeful. My dear friends, I'm not saying spinach is the only miracle, but I believe it is one of the most faithful companions for a healthy older life. Try it once and let your body be the one to answer you. My dear friends, have you ever climbed just a few steps and already felt your calves trembling, your heart pounding, as if your body were resisting every move? After 50, many people tell me, "Doctor, my muscles aren't what they used to be, and my heart feels weaker too." I always smile and answer, "No, your body hasn't abandoned you. It's only asking to be nourished the right way." And one of the most precious gifts nature has given us is salmon. It's no coincidence that many cultures call salmon the golden food for old age. Within its pink-orange flesh lies a perfect combination: pure protein to keep your muscles strong and gentle, omega-3s to protect your heart. I want you to imagine this. Our muscles are like a bridge. If the bridge isn't reinforced, over time the wooden beams decay and the whole structure weakens. But when you add quality protein, like that from salmon, it's as if you're replacing those beams with strong new ones, keeping the bridge steady against the passing years. I remember a patient, James, 68, once a carpenter. He came to me with weak shoulders and trembling hands, unable to lift even simple objects. He said, "Doctor, I'm afraid I won't have the strength to hold my newborn grandchild." I encouraged him to eat salmon twice a week, simply baked or steamed. 6 months later, he returned, holding his grandchild proudly, smiling. "Doctor, I did it." His eyes shone, not just because his muscles had strengthened, but because his heart felt alive again. Science supports this. Omega-3 fatty acids in salmon reduce inflammation in the arteries, lower blood pressure, and cut the risk of heart attack and stroke. More than that, omega-3s act like smooth oil running through an old engine, keeping it running quietly and efficiently. And protein? It's the brick and mortar that rebuilds muscles slowly lost with age. Do you believe aging must always mean decline? Many of my patients once thought so, but then they realized with just one small change in their diet, they could rewrite their story. Remember this: turning 60 is not the time to give up. It's the time to tend your body like a garden. Water it, nourish it, prune it, and it will bloom. Salmon is part of that nourishment. It helps muscles stay strong while keeping the heart calm and steady. One evening I sat with Eleanor, 70, who had suffered from angina. She said, "I fear that the wrong foods will make my heart worse." I told her, "Let salmon become your companion." Months later, she told me, "I don't worry as much anymore. I feel like I'm giving my heart a chance to love longer." You see, health doesn't always come from distant miracles. It often comes from simple choices at your table. A piece of salmon not only nourishes the muscles, but also touches the heart, literally and figuratively. So if you're wondering where to begin, begin with a meal of salmon. It doesn't need to be fancy or expensive. Just believe that each piece is quietly giving you more strength, more heartbeats, more joy to live your later years fully. My dear friends, salmon may not be the only miracle, but it is one of the simplest and most faithful gifts of nature. Your true companion for healthy muscles and a strong heart. Let your body be the one to answer after you begin. My dear friends, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever woken up in the morning, stretched your arms, and felt a stiffness that wasn't there years ago? Have you noticed that even carrying the grocery bags feels heavier, or that your chest beats harder after a short walk? Many people tell me, "Doctor, maybe this is just how life is after 60. Maybe weakness and fatigue are simply my destiny." But I want to challenge that thought. Weakness is not destiny. Fatigue is not fate. They are signals, gentle reminders from your body asking you to give it what it needs. And sometimes what it needs is not another pill, not another bottle of supplements, but something real, simple, and delicious. Salmon. You see, salmon is not just a piece of fish on your plate. It is a message from nature itself. In every tender bite, it carries protein, the builder of strength, and omega-3s, the guardian of the heart. Together, they form a partnership that speaks directly to the two things that matter most as we grow older: the stability of our body and the rhythm of our heart. I once had a patient, Martha, 65, who came to me with a deep sadness in her voice. She said, "Doctor, I used to dance. Now I can barely walk across the living room without losing my breath." I asked her about her diet, and it turned out she mostly ate processed foods, very little fresh fish. I encouraged her to try adding salmon twice a week. At first, she hesitated. "I don't know how to cook it, doctor." But I told her, it doesn't have to be complicated. A simple fillet baked with a squeeze of lemon is more powerful than you think. 3 months later, she returned, glowing. She said, "I can walk longer now, and I even danced a little at my granddaughter's birthday." My friends, do you realize what that means? It wasn't just muscles growing stronger or arteries flowing smoother. It was her spirit being restored. That is the quiet miracle of salmon. Science explains why. As we age, our muscles naturally shrink, a process called sarcopenia. Without enough protein, that decline accelerates. But salmon provides the building blocks, amino acids that repair and grow muscle fibers. At the same time, the omega-3s reduce the silent fires of inflammation inside the arteries, making the heart pump with less strain. Think of it this way. Protein is the brick that rebuilds the house, and omega-3s are the oil that keeps the doors from creaking. Now, I want you to imagine this. You're sitting at a dinner table with your loved ones. On the plate before you is a piece of salmon, golden from the oven, steam rising gently. With each bite, you're not just eating food, you're feeding your future. You're telling your muscles, "Stay strong so I can hold my grandchild." You're telling your heart, "Stay steady so I can laugh a little longer with the people I love." Do you see how simple yet profound this is? Health is not always about grand gestures. It is about the choices we repeat, quietly, week after week. 2 meals of salmon, and suddenly your muscles stop fading so quickly. Your heart feels lighter. Your steps grow firmer. I remember another patient, Robert, 74. He had always been a proud man, but when he came to me, he admitted, "Doctor, I can't mow my lawn anymore. I get too tired." I could see the frustration in his eyes. We worked together on gentle exercise, but I also asked him to bring salmon into his kitchen. 6 months later, he returned laughing. "Doctor, I didn't just mow the lawn. I helped my neighbor with his too." That laughter, that sparkle of independence, that is the power of nutrition aligned with the wisdom of age. My dear friends, the story of salmon is not only about science, nor only about food. It is about dignity, about giving yourself permission to remain strong, active, and joyful after 60. It is about saying, "My body still deserves care. My heart still deserves love." Too often people believe aging means surrender, but I tell you, aging means stewardship. It means tending to your body like a precious garden. Feed it the right foods, water it with kindness, let it rest in good sleep, and it will still bloom. Salmon is one of those nourishing rains for your garden. Gentle, consistent, transformative. So I ask you, why not give yourself this gift? Why not place a piece of salmon on your plate this week and let it whisper to your body, "You are not finished. You are still strong. You are still alive." God, remember, you don't need to chase miracle cures. You don't need exotic treatments. Sometimes the miracle is already waiting in the simplest of meals. Salmon is not a luxury. It is nature's way of telling us, "I still care for you even as the years pass." My friends, you have a choice. You can let age define you, or you can let your habits refine you. And one of the most faithful habits you can embrace is to let salmon be your companion, for your muscles, for your heart, and for the joy of every day you are given. My dear friends, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever woken up in the morning, stretched your arms, and felt a stiffness that wasn't there years ago? Have you noticed that even carrying the grocery bags feels heavier, or that your chest beats harder after a short walk? Many people tell me, "Doctor, maybe this is just how life is after 60. Maybe weakness and fatigue are simply my destiny." But I want to challenge that thought. Weakness is not destiny. Fatigue is not fate. They are signals, gentle reminders from your body, asking you to give it what it needs. And sometimes what it needs is not another pill, not another bottle of supplements, but something real, simple, and delicious. Salmon. You see, salmon is not just a piece of fish on your plate. It is a message from nature itself. In every tender bite, it carries protein, the builder of strength, and omega-3s, the guardian of the heart. Together, they form a partnership that speaks directly to the two things that matter most as we grow older: the stability of our body and the rhythm of our heart. I once had a patient, Martha, 65, who came to me with a deep sadness in her voice. She said, "Doctor, I used to dance. Now I can barely walk across the living room without losing my breath." I asked her about her diet, and it turned out she mostly ate processed foods, very little fresh fish. I encouraged her to try adding salmon twice a week. At first, she hesitated. "I don't know how to cook it, doctor." But I told her it doesn't have to be complicated. A simple fillet baked with a squeeze of lemon is more powerful than you think. 3 months later, she returned, glowing. She said, "I can walk longer now, and I even danced a little at my granddaughter's birthday." My friends, do you realize what that means? It wasn't just muscles growing stronger or arteries flowing smoother. It was her spirit being restored. That is the quiet miracle of salmon. Science explains why. As we age, our muscles naturally shrink, a process called sarcopenia. Without enough protein, that decline accelerates. But salmon provides the building blocks, amino acids that repair and grow muscle-bearing fibers. At the same time, the omega-3s reduce the silent fires of inflammation inside the arteries, making the heart pump with less strain. Think of it this way. Protein is the brick that rebuilds the house, and omega-3s are the oil that keeps the doors from creaking. Now, I want you to imagine this. You're sitting at a dinner table with your loved ones. On the plate before you is a piece of salmon, golden from the oven, steam rising gently. With each bite, you're not just eating food, you're feeding your future. You're telling your muscles, "Stay strong so I can hold my grandchild." You're telling your heart, "Stay steady so I can laugh a little longer with the people I love." Do you see how simple yet profound this is? Health is not always about grand gestures. It is about the choices we repeat, quietly, week after week. 2 meals of salmon, and suddenly your muscles stop fading so quickly. Your heart feels lighter. Your steps grow firmer. I remember another patient, Robert, 74. He had always been a proud man, but when he came to me, he admitted, "Doctor, I can't mow my lawn anymore. I get too tired." I could see the frustration in his eyes. We worked together on gentle exercise, but I also asked him to bring salmon into his kitchen. 6 months later, he returned, laughing. "Doctor, I didn't just mow the lawn. I helped my neighbor with his too." That laughter, that sparkle of independence, that is the power of nutrition aligned with the wisdom of age. My dear friends, the story of salmon is not only about science, nor only about food. It is about dignity, about giving yourself permission to remain strong, active, and joyful after 60. It is about saying, "My body still deserves care. My heart still deserves love." Too often, people believe aging means surrender. But I tell you, aging means stewardship. It means tending to your body like a precious garden. Feed it the right foods, water it with kindness. Let it rest in good sleep, and it will still bloom. Salmon is one of those nourishing rains for your garden. Gentle, consistent, transformative. So I ask you, why not give yourself this gift? Why not place a piece of salmon on your plate this week and let it whisper to your body, "You are not finished. You are still strong. You are still alive." Remember, you don't need to chase miracle cures. You don't need exotic treatments. Sometimes the miracle is already waiting in the simplest of meals. Salmon is not a luxury. It is nature's way of telling us, "I still care for you even as the years pass." My friends, you have a choice. You can let age define you, or you can let your habits refine you. And one of the most faithful habits you can embrace is to let salmon be your companion. For your muscles, for your heart, and for the joy of every day you are given. My dear friends, let me begin with a simple question. Have you ever walked just a few blocks and felt as if your legs were carrying the weight of the world? Have you ever sat down at night, rubbing your calves, whispering to yourself, "Why do they feel so heavy, so tired when I haven't even done that much today?" You are not alone. Many of my patients over 60 have told me the same story. They describe their legs as if they've turned to stone, or as if every step is taken against a hidden current. And I always tell them this: your legs are not betraying you. They are only hungry for the right kind of fuel. Now, when I think of fuel, most of us imagine bread, rice, or maybe a cup of coffee to push us through the day. But here's the truth. Not all fuel is created equal. Some fuels burn too quickly, leaving you drained. Others burn too heavily, slowing you down. But there is a food, humble and sweet, that provides the kind of steady fire your body craves: the sweet potato. Yes, the same orange root that may have sat quietly at the edge of your Thanksgiving table holds a secret power. Sweet potatoes are nature's slow-burning firewood. They are rich in complex carbohydrates that release energy gradually, giving your leg muscles strength without the sudden spikes and crashes of sugar. Imagine lighting a candle that burns bright but quickly flickers out. That is white bread. Now imagine a sturdy log that keeps glowing gently through the night. That is the sweet potato. But the gift of sweet potatoes doesn't stop at energy. They are also packed with magnesium and potassium, two minerals that are like the quiet electricians of your body. Magnesium helps your muscles relax, reducing cramps that so often steal our sleep at night. Potassium balances the fluid in your cells, preventing that tight, heavy feeling in your calves. Together, they create harmony, allowing your muscles to work without strain. I remember a patient named Linda, 71 years old. She came to me complaining of nightly leg cramps. "Doctor," she said, "I dread going to bed because I know I'll be jolted awake by pain." When I asked about her diet, I learned she barely ate vegetables. Her meals were mostly bread and coffee. I suggested she try roasting a sweet potato with a drizzle of olive oil for lunch, 3 times a week. A month later, she returned with tears in her eyes. "Doctor, I slept through the night for the first time in years." That, my friends, is the quiet healing power of real food. Science confirms what Linda experienced. Studies show that magnesium deficiency is linked to restless legs and nighttime cramps, while potassium helps regulate nerve signals that tell our muscles when to contract and when to rest. Sweet potatoes deliver both, in a form your body can recognize and absorb naturally. I want you to picture this. Your body is like a river flowing through a valley. If the riverbed is dry and cracked, water rushes away without soaking in. But when the soil is rich and balanced, the river nourishes every root, every tree. In the same way, when your cells are nourished with the right minerals, your energy doesn't slip away. It stays, it sustains, it strengthens. Another patient, Frank, 66, used to struggle with diabetes. His blood sugar spiked every time he ate bread or pasta, leaving him exhausted. I encouraged him to replace one of those meals with baked sweet potato. At first, he doubted me. "Sweet? Won't it make my sugar worse?" But the sweetness of a sweet potato is gentle, supported by fiber that slows digestion. 3 months later, Frank had not only steadier energy, but also steadier blood sugar levels. He told me, "Doctor, I walk every morning now and my legs don't feel like anchors anymore." So let me ask you, have you ever dismissed the sweet potato as just another side dish, when in truth it could be your ally against fatigue, cramps, and weakness? Sometimes the answers we seek aren't hidden in expensive prescriptions, but in the simple, earthy foods that our grandparents once ate without question. Think of it this way. After 60, life should not be about surviving the day. It should be about savoring it. To savor a day, you need legs that carry you with ease, muscles that obey you, and energy that doesn't fade after lunch. Sweet potatoes may seem small, but they can become the firewood that keeps your body's flame burning warmly, steadily. My friends, when you next walk through your grocery store, pause at the basket of sweet potatoes. Pick one up, feel its weight in your hand, and remind yourself, this is not just food, it is medicine crafted by nature. Roast it, steam it, mash it. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you are feeding your muscles with fuel they understand. I want you to remember Linda, who found her nights again. Remember Frank, who found his mornings again. And perhaps remember yourself, because you too can find strength where you thought it was gone. So tonight, ask yourself this: why? My dear friends, let me ask you something. Have you ever heard your knees creak when you stand up from a chair? Have you ever felt a dull ache in your hips after a short walk, as if your very bones were whispering their age to you? Many of my patients over 60 tell me, "Doctor, I'm afraid my bones are crumbling beneath me." And I look them in the eye and say, your bones are not crumbling, they are simply calling out for nourishment. You see, our bones are not lifeless stones. They are living, breathing tissues, constantly breaking down and rebuilding. But as we age, the rebuilding slows and the breaking down speeds up. That's why fractures become more common, balance feels more fragile, and sometimes even the simple act of walking across a room feels risky. But here's the good news. With the right foods, you can give your bones the raw materials they need to rebuild. And one of the most powerful foods for this purpose is humble, green, and sitting right in your grocery store. Broccoli. Yes, broccoli. Not always the most glamorous vegetable, sometimes even the one children push to the side of the plate. But for those of us over 50, broccoli is a treasure chest of bone-healing nutrients. Inside its florets lies calcium, the mineral that forms the scaffolding of your bones. It also carries vitamin K, which acts like a traffic director, guiding calcium into the bones instead of letting it drift into the arteries where it doesn't belong. Add to this a wealth of antioxidants and vitamin C, which protect bone tissue from inflammation and damage, and you begin to see why I call broccoli the green shield of your skeleton. I remember a patient named George, 73, who came to me after a minor fall left him with a fractured wrist. He was discouraged. "Doctor," he said, "if I can break a bone this easily, what's next? A hip, a spine?" I didn't sugarcoat the truth, he was at risk. But I also told him, "George, your bones are not gone. They can still be rebuilt, slowly, steadily. But they need your help." We worked on exercise, sunlight, and I asked him to eat broccoli at least 3 times a week. Steamed with olive oil, tossed into soups, even blended into a morning smoothie. 6 months later, George came back with a stronger grip and more confidence in his step. He said, "Doctor, I feel like my body has hope again." That hope, my friends, was not magic. It was nourishment. Science backs this up. Studies have shown that older adults who consume more vitamin K have a lower risk of fractures. Calcium alone isn't enough. Without vitamin K, it may not reach the bones where it's needed. Broccoli provides both in harmony, like a well-practiced orchestra playing together. And the antioxidants? They fight the silent inflammation that weakens bones over time. Have you ever thought of your skeleton as a cathedral? The pillars are your bones holding up the whole structure of your life. Over time, the pillars may crack, but with the right care, the foundation can still be strengthened. Broccoli is like a mason's tool, laying fresh mortar between the bricks, making the structure steady again. I once had a patient, Ellen, 69, who loved gardening but stopped because her back felt fragile. She told me, "Doctor, I'm afraid I'll bend down and not be able to get up again." I encouraged her to bring broccoli into her meals, to think of it not as a duty, but as an act of self-love. Months later, she showed me pictures of her garden, blooming flowers, fresh tomatoes, her hands in the soil. She said, "Doctor, broccoli gave me back my garden." Now, was it only broccoli? Number. But it was part of a symphony of choices that gave her bones the courage to support her joy. So I ask you, my friends, have you underestimated this green vegetable? Have you walked past it in the market, thinking it too ordinary, too boring? What if, hidden in those florets, is the very strength your knees and hips are longing for? Imagine this, a warm evening meal, a plate of salmon with a side of steamed broccoli, not a feast of extravagance, but a feast of healing. With each bite, you're giving your body the tools to stand taller, to walk steadier, to embrace life without the shadow of fragility. Remember this, age does not steal your strength. Poor nourishment does. Age does not break your bones. Neglect does. And broccoli, as simple as it may seem, is one of nature's answers to that neglect. My dear friends, when you next hear the creak of your knees, don't sigh with resignation. Smile with determination. Because every meal is a chance to add a little more strength to your frame. Every forkful of broccoli is a promise to your body. I will not give up on you. I will feed you what you need. So tonight, when you sit at your table, perhaps let broccoli take its rightful place, not at the side of the plate as an afterthought, but at the center of your care. And with time, your bones will thank you. Not in words, but in the quiet confidence of steps that, my dear friends, let me ask you something. Have you ever started a walk full of energy, only to stop halfway because your legs felt powerless, as if someone had unplugged your body's battery? Have you ever longed to walk just a little farther, through the park, around the block, or with your grandchildren, but felt your endurance fading too soon? You are not alone. Many of my patients in their 60s and 70s tell me, "Doctor, I want to stay active, but my body just runs out of gas." And I tell them, your body is not broken. It is simply waiting for a recharge. And sometimes the recharge doesn't come from a pill or a machine, but from the ground itself, in the form of the humble beetroot. Yes, beets. This deep red root, glowing like a jewel beneath the soil, carries a secret that science has only recently begun to fully appreciate. Beets are rich in nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide. If that sounds familiar, it should. Nitric oxide is the same compound we spoke about when we discussed spinach. But here's the difference. Beets provide a powerful surge of it, especially to the lower body. That means more oxygen traveling to your legs, more fuel delivered to your muscles, and more confidence in every step. I remember a patient, Samuel, 70, who loved fishing but stopped because the short walk to the lake left him winded. He came to me with sadness in his eyes. "Doctor, I feel like my days of enjoying the outdoors are behind me." I suggested something simple, a small glass of beet juice in the morning, 3 or 4 times a week. A month later, Samuel came back grinning. "Doctor, I made it to the lake, stayed the whole morning, and still had energy to walk back." That was not a miracle of medicine. That was the miracle of nourishment. Science confirms Samuel's story. Studies show that older adults who drink beet juice or eat cooked beets regularly can walk longer distances with less fatigue. Their muscles use oxygen more efficiently, almost as if someone tuned up their internal engine. Imagine your body as a car. Before, you were burning gas too quickly, sputtering after a few miles. With beets, you're getting better mileage, smoother rides, and more freedom on the road of life. But endurance is not just physical, it is also emotional. When you can walk farther, you feel more independent. When you can climb stairs without stopping, you feel more confident. When you can play with your grandchildren without gasping, you feel more alive. That is the true gift of beets. Not just stronger legs, but a stronger spirit. I want you to picture this. Slicing into a roasted beet, the vibrant red color staining the plate, reminding you of the lifeblood flowing through your veins. With each bite, you're feeding that lifeblood, making it run smoother, faster, more freely. It's as if the beet whispers to your body, "Keep going. Don't stop. You still have miles left in you." One of my patients, Eleanor, 68, once told me, "Doctor, I feel embarrassed when I walk with my daughter. She has to slow down for me." I encouraged her to include beets in her salads, roasted with olive oil, tossed with a little goat cheese. Months later, she told me, "Doctor, last week I walked with my daughter, and she said, 'Mom, you're walking faster than me.'" That smile on Eleanor's face was brighter than any prescription I could give. Now, some of you may be thinking, "But doctor, beets are messy and I'm not sure how to cook them." Let me ease your mind. They can be boiled, roasted, or even blended raw into smoothies with apples or carrots. Beet juice is widely available too. It doesn't matter how you take it. What matters is that you let this root, grown quietly in the soil, become a root of strength in your own life. There is a saying I often share with my patients. Aging is not the end of the road. It is simply a longer journey. And to walk that journey, you need endurance. Beets are not magic, but they are a companion for the road, a lantern lighting the path, a battery charger for tired legs. My dear friends, when you feel your energy slipping too soon, when your legs beg you to stop, don't accept that as your fate. Instead, ask yourself, what if I could go farther? What if my body still has strength waiting to be awakened? And then give yourself the gift of beets, because in the end, life is not about how fast you go. It's about how far you can keep walking, how much joy you can carry with you, and how deeply you can live each step. Beets, in their humble, earthy way, help make those steps possible. So tonight, when you sit down to dinner, perhaps place a beet on your plate. And tomorrow, when you take a walk, notice if your legs feel just a little lighter, if your breath lasts just a little longer, if your heart beats with just a little more freedom. That is the voice of endurance returning. That is the whisper of life itself reminding you, you are not finished. Beets, my dear friends, are more than food. My dear friends, have you ever felt a strange tingling in your legs or feet, as if pins and needles were dancing beneath your skin? Have you ever stood up and suddenly felt unsteady, like your legs forgot to listen to your brain's command? Many of my patients over 60 tell me, "Doctor, I don't feel safe on my own feet anymore. Sometimes I stumble even when the ground is flat." These are not just accidents of aging. Often they are signals, whispers from your nerves crying out for help. And when nerves are crying, the body needs nourishment that speaks directly to them. That's where the humble carrot steps in. Yes, the bright orange root that has been on our tables since childhood is not just good for the eyes, it is also a quiet guardian of the nervous system. Carrots are packed with vitamin A and beta-carotene, nutrients that protect the delicate lining of nerves and keep the communication lines between brain and body strong. Think of your nerves as electric wires. Over time, the insulation frays. Carrots help repair that insulation so the signals travel clearly without interruption. I remember a patient, Dolores, 69, who came to me with a complaint that startled her. "Doctor," she said, "sometimes I feel like my feet are not even mine. They feel numb, like I'm walking on cotton." That numbness frightened her, especially when crossing the street. I asked her about her diet, and she admitted she rarely ate fresh vegetables. We worked together on small changes, one of which was adding carrots, raw sticks as snacks, grated into salads, blended into soups. 3 months later, Dolores told me, "Doctor, I can feel the ground beneath me again. I walk with more confidence that my friends is not just improved nutrition, it is the restoration of connection between body and brain." Science explains why. Our nerves are vulnerable to oxidative stress, tiny sparks of damage that build up with age. Beta-carotene, the pigment that gives carrots their orange glow, acts as an antioxidant, extinguishing those sparks before they spread. Vitamin A, meanwhile, supports the repair of nerve tissue and helps maintain balance in the nervous system. Together, they keep the electrical wiring of the body safe and steady. I want you to imagine this. You are walking down a quiet path, and the sunlight filters through the trees. You place one foot in front of the other, steady, strong, secure. You don't have to second-guess your step. You don't have to look down in fear. That kind of confidence is what nourished nerves can give you. And carrots, humble as they are, can be part of the bridge to that confidence. Another patient of mine, Harold, 72, told me once, "Doctor, I don't fear pain as much as I fear falling. If my legs betray me, I might not get up again." That fear is real. Falls are one of the greatest dangers for older adults. But when we strengthen nerves, we reduce that risk. Harold began including carrots roasted with olive oil at dinner and sipping on carrot juice a few mornings a week. Months later, he shared with me, "I don't feel as wobbly anymore." I walk out to the mailbox without hesitation. For Harold, carrots were not just food, they were peace of mind. My dear friends, let me tell you this. Aging is not about losing control of your body. It is about learning how to give it what it needs so it can keep serving you faithfully. Your nerves are like silent musicians in the orchestra of your body. When they play in tune, every step, every movement flows smoothly. But when they falter, the whole symphony stumbles. Carrots are one of nature's ways of keeping those musicians in harmony. Some of you might be thinking, "But doctor, carrots are so simple. Can something so ordinary really make a difference?" And I say, yes. Often it is the simplest foods that carry the deepest healing. Nature does not always announce its miracles with grandeur. Sometimes it hides them in an orange root that has been with us all along. So I ask you, have you given carrots their due respect? Or have you passed them by thinking they are too common to matter? The truth is, every crunch of a carrot is like a message sent down your nerves. Stay strong, stay connected, stay alive. I want you to remember Dolores, who found her footing again. Remember Harold, who regained his peace of mind. And remember that you too can take a step with more confidence, more steadiness, more joy. The next time you sit at your table, don't think of carrots as a garnish. Think of them as guardians. Grate them raw, roast them sweet, blend them into soups. It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you are feeding your nerves the nourishment they crave. Because at the end of the day, health is not just about muscles or bones. It is about the invisible connections that allow you to stand, walk, and live with dignity. Carrots, my dear friends, help keep those connections alive. So tonight, when you ask yourself what your body needs, perhaps my dear friends, we have walked together through a garden of foods: spinach, salmon, sweet potatoes, broccoli, beets, carrots, kale, garlic, and avocado. Each one has its own gift. Spinach opens your blood vessels. Salmon fuels your muscles and guards your heart. Sweet potatoes provide steady fire for your legs. Broccoli strengthens your bones. Beets recharge your endurance. Carrots protect your nerves. Kale calms inflammation. Garlic smooths your circulation. And avocado restores tired muscles. But I want you to understand something deeper. This is not just about food. It is about the story you choose to write with the years you have left. Many of my patients have told me, "Doctor, after 60, I feel like my body doesn't listen to me anymore." And I always say, your body still listens. It listens to what you feed it, how you move it, how you rest it, how you love it. It has never stopped listening. The question is, what messages are you sending? When you eat foods like these, you are not just filling your stomach. You are sending signals to your body. I still care for you. I still need you strong. I still believe you can heal. And your body, even at 60, 70, or 80, responds. Slowly, gently, but faithfully. I remember a patient, Helen, 75, who once told me, "Doctor, I think it's too late for me. My bones ache, my legs are weak, and I can't imagine ever feeling better." I asked her to try small changes. Spinach in the morning, salmon once a week, a roasted sweet potato at lunch. 6 months later, she walked into my office taller, steadier, brighter. She said, "Doctor, I feel like I've been given back a part of my life I thought was gone." That is what happens when we stop treating food as background noise and start treating it as medicine. Real medicine. Medicine that doesn't just patch symptoms, but restores balance. So let me ask you, have you given up on your body too soon? Have you accepted pain, fatigue, or weakness as destiny? Or can you, just for a moment, imagine a different future? One where your steps are lighter, your sleep is deeper, your heart is calmer, your days are longer. I want you to imagine this: a table set for dinner. On it, a plate of salmon with garlic, a side of steamed broccoli, a small bowl of roasted sweet potatoes, a salad with spinach, carrots, and avocado, perhaps a glass of beet juice. This is not a feast of kings. This is the feast of life. Each bite, a small act of healing. Each flavor, a whisper of renewal. Each meal, a message to your body. You are not finished. You are still strong. You are still a mom. And here is the truth I have seen again and again. It is never too late. Never too late to calm inflammation, to restore circulation, to rebuild muscle, to strengthen bone. Never too late to wake up one morning and say, "I feel lighter today. I feel younger today. I feel alive today." My dear friends, you are not aging. You are awakening. Awakening to the realization that your body is not your enemy. It is your oldest, most faithful companion. It has carried you through decades of laughter and tears, victories and losses, loves and losses. And even now, it waits for you to care for it again. Spinach, salmon, sweet potatoes, broccoli, beets, carrots, kale, garlic, avocado. These are not just foods. They are invitations. Invitations to walk farther, to love longer, to live deeper. Invitations to remind yourself that health is not gone, it is only waiting. So tonight, when you sit at your table, I invite you to make a promise. Not to me, but to yourself. Pick one food, just one, and begin. Add it to your meal. Taste it slowly, and as you do, tell yourself, "This is how I heal. This is how I choose life again." Because, my dear friends, the truth is simple. You are not finished. You are still rebuilding. You are still becoming. And that perhaps is the most beautiful part of growing older.